Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, you stick around, he'll make it worth your while, Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
Boy, I sure hope that this podcast is Beeves.
Oh, man. Today, we are talking about The Flash, whose production designer says it's so good that people will forget about Ezra Miller's crimes. Is that going to be the case? We'll find out today. But before we get to The Flash, we do have to say a big thank you to the people that support this show over at patreon.com/HMP. Those awesome people get pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone. What's the Dinger Zone about this week? We don't know yet because we haven't recorded it as of this recording, so it's a secret to even us. Ooh, mysterious. But if you'd like to find out what that is and support this show at the exact same time, head on down to patreon.com/HMP. Join up today. We really appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for that. And if you can't do that, for heaven's sake, go on down to the either the iTunes or the Spotify. Drop us a 5-star review, aka Humdinger.
Humdinger.
And we really appreciate that, and it helps the show, man. Boy, The Flash. So this thing has been gestating for some time here. Any expectations going into this at all?
Well, I mean, my big expectation is what every male over the age of 35's expectation going into this movie is, which is please let the Michael Keaton Batman not be a sad joke.
Yeah. There were chances that things could have been really, really bad.
Really awful. And, we'll talk about it, won't we?
Yeah, we'll get into all the kind of good stuff and everything, but let's get into it. Here is the IMDb plot line for The Flash. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. Barry Allen uses his super speed to change the past, but in his attempt to save his family, creates a world without superheroes, forcing him to race for his life in order to save the future. That's fairly close, I would say.
Yeah, pretty good.
This is directed by Andy Muschietti. That's what I'm going to call him. He's
nice.
from the It movies as well as Mama, if you're one of those real horror hounds. This is written by Christina Hodson, who you probably know best from Birds of Prey and Bumblebee. And Joby Holland, who you probably know as the showrunner / I guess couple episode writer for the new Obi-Wan series that just came out. So he's to blame for that one. So you got a little bit, as the song goes, you take the good, you take the bad. You put them together, and there you have The Flash. And
he's probably writing the reboot of that as well.
To some degree, though, that is a lot of the case with with this entire movie as well. There's a lot of the good and the bad in it as well. But if that wasn't enough, let me sell everybody on this Zack Snyder era Flash movie, because this sucker's got everything. 7 years in, what do you say we finally get ourselves a Flash origin story? Yeah, surely that's what we all need. We've got breakfast on the go, phone calls with Alfred, fisheye close-ups, which is perfect for every second of screen time where your lead looks like Rango from the movie Rango, who just woke up and he's shocked at how many people are in his bedroom, but he has to pretend that it's all normal. We finally get at least a little bit of that Batfleck movie that we were so grossly denied. A hospital scene that makes Hard-Boiled. You know what? Let's not talk about Hard-Boiled. Let's talk about how Barry's dad went from Dr. Manhattan to Peter from Office Space. Okay, then. We got hunger pains, so that leads to tons of gross eating. Sure, Sean loved that one. Wonder Woman shows up, and she's so hot at this point that you don't even care that she can't act. So the Flash gets really mopey in a flashback. See, yeah, I hate myself too. He gets all sad, and he runs so fast that he ends up running through time. Same, Flash, same. What does Force Chronoball? Yes, that's its real name. What does the Chronoball thing look like? I'm glad you asked. It looks exactly like PlayStation 3 graphics. Literally, the entire internet is asking why it looks unfinished, and the director answered, "That's totally the way we wanted it to look." And he didn't laugh or nothing at the end of that.
I believe him on that, but I think that that was a mistake. You got a $300 million movie here. Maybe you don't go cheapy on the visuals on your $300 million movie.
We got a couple more renders out of this before we get it to where we really want to be, but the time is here. Let's go. We got an Iris West phasing for beers. This get out of jail free card will be redeemed more times than you'll be able to remember. We play a game of how quickly can I be convinced to ruin all of time and space. So he does just that and gives us some Back to the Future 2 action. We get an 18-year-old Barry who's still an annoying little prick, but even still, you like him better than adult Barry, which, let's be honest though, doesn't seem like an adult in nearly any way possible. We got to get young Barry flash powers, so in this 7 years deep origin movie, why not as well put in a sequel and take away Flash Prime's power when Flash Jr. gets his powers? It's almost like they've been working on this film for the better part of a decade. We got Eric Stoltz, Kevin Bacon, here comes Zod, but in this timeline, no one knows who Superman is, but they all know who Batman is. He may not be your number one, but he's on everybody's top Batman of all time. That's right, Michael Douglas shows up looking like Sean Connery in The Rock. We got a fight scene to 25 or 6 to 4, which I, could pretty much get a, what did I write there? I'm just skipping that. We got spaghetti timelines, the Keaton Batcave, including the best Batmobile that's ever been. Y'all can fight me on that one. Danny Elfman getting some of that sweet, sweet mailbox money. We got Kara Zor-El, and let me tell you, she's absolutely fantastic. More on that later. We keep shocking a man till he comes back to life, because that's what you do. Arts and crafts times, lightning fingers, multiverse muckery, CGI heroes of glory days past, cameos from all the JLA members except for Cyborg. I think he was busy drowning in a sea of tears of anger. So we do all the things. We stop all the stops. Everything is status quo. And then bam, George Clooney. This movie's got everything except for the Flash kissing himself, which I got to be honest, I was absolutely waiting for that to happen. This movie's got everything.
So that was absolutely a banger. Your wrap up was absolutely a banger there. So first things first is that we need to mention the fact that there's going to be spoilers. After that, I want to say, when you are DC and everyone keeps telling you that your collateral damage is awful, how do you fix that? Do you have him save a dog or a cat? No. How about we have the Flash save 10 babies and a rescue dog, all in the opening scene. And there's something really great about that. Of the we're doing it. Everybody, shut up. We're doing it.
He's fine.
I love that. I love the fact that there's a the baby CGI looks like Baby's Day Out CGI. I love that.
It's so bad.
Those babies look like Baby Bink. They do. They look awful.
They make the baby in American Sniper look real. I thought that was a real baby the first time I saw that movie. You know what I didn't think was a baby? Any of these babies.
But all of that is great. I love that. I love the first third of this movie is my favorite part of this movie, because it's so bonkers. It's kind of wonderful how crazy the first third of this movie is, the first act.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, for a movie that costs $300 million, they are going for it, and I'm all about that, even if it doesn't all work, which, let's be honest, about 50% of it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter because it's so bonkers. Him looking through the time stream, and he can, and only his head pops out, and I was like, this is the movie we're seeing.
little peek of the face out there. I kind of like that. It's some fun stuff.
We get 10 baby Binks, and we get Crazy Barry Head. It's marvelous. It's that the first third of this movie, I was like, man, this might be the greatest movie ever made. And then, unfortunately, the movie continues. But that
and then
first
there's another
third,
2 hours.
That first third, man, it is a banger. And I love the fact that there is so much attention paid to the minutia of Barry's life, when you're like, literally, like the everyday routine of his life. We're in that for so long that I was like, this is going to be a 2-parter. This movie, I legitimately thought this movie was going to be two parts, and that they just didn't tell anybody. But that isn't what happened, and so I'm very pleased by that. But
that would have been
holy
hilarious
cow.
if this would have ended just like whatever that last film that I just watched that was just like totally left for cliffhanger.
I've got to tell you, man, the last 3 weeks of our show, of our dumb podcast, we have had three of the craziest things that we've ever spoken about back to back. Across the Spider-Verse is bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
Message from Space, get out of here. That's one of the craziest things we've ever seen. And then the first third of The Flash, man, just absolute crazy.
The back half is crazy, but maybe in not the best of ways.
No, the back half is crazy in a really bad way, and we'll get into that because there's a whole lot that I'm just like, why? Why did you choose that? There's 1,000 other things you could have done, and you chose that. And anyway, yeah. We'll get to it. The baby's falling out of the hospital. I was like, this might be the greatest movie I've ever seen because it's so crazy. They put a baby in a microwave. Come on. What are we doing? It's so good.
I even like how when he goes to take the baby out of the microwave at the end, there's a bing.
Ding. Oh, so good.
It's like, did y'all just microwave that baby?
So good.
Even if, listen, I'm going to put this out there. I don't think you should microwave a baby, even for a second.
Man.
Some say take a hard stance on things, but
that is a hard stance by you.
Sometimes I have to, got to put your foot down. I don't, even 1 second, unacceptable to microwave a baby for 1 second.
So, and can we get into Ezra Miller?
Yeah, let's do.
I know that we talk about him a lot on the show just because I find him fascinating.
Yeah, it's like watching an active car wreck a lot of times.
It really is, man. And, the thing about it is that he is pretty damn good in this movie. I know that you're not a huge fan of his, but he is playing two different roles in this movie of the same person. And not once, not ever did I mistake which one was which. And it's not just because of the hair. Like the performance is so different between the two the two characters that I was pleasantly surprised. He is a good actor. He's going to need a lot of time to go away and figure things out, and hopefully it's just mental illness that he has to deal with, and not like that he's just a horrible person who can't ever be changed.
Yeah,
but seeing him in this, it was like, man, it's a shame that he's not going to be the Flash, because he is good as Barry in this, but we're never seeing that dude again unless there's another stupid multiverse thing 10 years, 20 years from now where he shows up again.
It's so weird because there are indeed moments in this where I did fluctuate, where I was just like, oh no, here's some really good acting. There are moments in here where I am like, I'm 100% on board. I'm like, oh, he's doing really well. And then like sometimes even within the same scene, it's back to, and you're like, oh, no, we're back to this again. And it's an inconsistency within the performance, and I'm sure there's a lot of, and I'm sure you can also look by a lot of different hair, not just between old Barry and young Barry, but a lot of different hairstyles and stuff like that. There's a lot of reshoots on this, and where you can just go like, oh, that's your secondary hairstyle right there. That was not your first one, or whatever order. It ain't one of the originals.
What I heard was that there was that the director's cut of this movie is 4 hours long, and that's taking scenes out from before we get to the director's cut. So I would imagine that there's probably altogether there's a 5-hour version of this movie.
Yeah, no one needs to see that. Honestly, even 2.5 is pushing this thing.
Yeah,
this could be, and honestly, if you would have kept this to just 2 hours, I think it would have had a really nice, brisk pace to it that would have made it seem a lot more fun. And and some of the emotion, and here's the thing, a lot of the emotional stuff and like things with mom and stuff like that, those really work. And I think they work really on account of Ezra Miller, like you said, is a good actor when he's honing it in. When he's not, it's like, it's really off, and it's like, oh, this isn't even what it doesn't seem like the same person sometimes. But those scenes are quite effective. It just feels like they were trying to maybe fit all the other stuff in. I'm not sure, but I want to like him, but also they shoot him in such a weird way that I hate. I hate the way they shoot him. It's awful. And I know that like it's the look or whatever that they're kind of going for, but this almost fisheye lens that they put on him and keep right up in his grill the entire time. He already looks like a fish in real life, people. Why are you going to be doing this to the man? He already looks a little bit funny, and then you're going to like put this wide angle lens and shove the camera right into his face. And again, he has that constant look of like he's woken up and there's a boatload of people in his bedroom, but he needs to pretend like it's all good. And whoa, what's going on? Like that's his default look for everything, and it drives me up the wall. But at the same time, too,
maybe that's his resting face.
Exactly. I think that is the problem. Is that like he's constantly being half spooked. But like then you go over to like Young Barry, and that like that's where I also just go like, no, these are like choices that he's making, and that annoys me even more. So it's not like it's just like, oh, this is what they did it on purpose. And I just let me ask you this: we know Barry Allen to be a very smart individual in comic lore and TV shows, all the in the past.
Forensics, yeah.
Do you believe that this man is smart in any way, shape, or form?
No, not at all, and not in any way. And I've got a question on your question.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize it till this movie. Maybe you remember. I did not. It is so very, very clear that the actor Ben Affleck, when he's playing Batman / Bruce Wayne, does not like Ezra Miller.
Oh, I don't think so. Yeah,
and it becomes clear in the performance, because when you see Ezra Miller playing against, Ben Affleck. Not Ben Affleck, but like other actors. I'm trying to think of the perfect example here. Michael Keaton, right? Okay. So when he's acting against Michael Keaton in scenes, you can tell that Michael Keaton is pretty much okay with Ezra Miller. Maybe Ezra Miller was on his best behavior. They
clearly have to have shot for a couple of days together, whereas Affleck feels like he stopped by for a day or two.
Affleck really, it comes through in the performance. I do not like this person. I want to be done with this thing. Whereas with Michael Keaton, you called him Michael Douglas, by the way, at the top of the show.
Yeah, because that's his actual name.
I was going to say that's not wrong. Which
is hilarious because Michael Douglas's real name is not Michael Douglas. It's a very Jewy name, and he's like, nope, can't have that.
Right. I'm going to pretend I wasn't offended by you saying Jewish.
I had the Jewish friends who have said these words, and I go, you know what? If that's fine enough for you, we're brothers that way.
Okay. So as long as you're okay with it, I guess
that's fine.
So the performance in this one. So basically, my question to you is this: is Ben Affleck, did he behave that way before? Does it come through in his performance before in either Justice League? Actually, he's not even in Batman v Superman. Flash isn't really in that one, but like in Justice League. Can you tell through the performance that Ben Affleck doesn't like Ezra Miller?
I feel like he feels a little more perturbed this time, but like I don't know that he didn't look thrilled in the Justice League movie with him, because like the one that I really feel like is like just that, oh my God, I am just so over everything, is like when Flash asks what his superpower is and he says I'm rich. His line reading of I'm rich it feels just like him saying, I guess. I mean, whatever. Like it just, he does not seem like he wants to be there in that moment. This feels like this performance in this movie feels like that dragged out. But I will say this though, I absolutely love Affleck in this. Me too. I thought his Bruce Wayne was fantastic. The Batman action stuff was on point and looked so fun. And you kind of go like, crap, dude, we could have had like a really good Batman Affleck movie. It would have been so good.
Affleck's on the record too now of saying, it's a shame this is my last movie as Batman because I finally figured out exactly what I should be doing. And it's clear.
Mm-hmm.
In this movie, it is very clear that he has nailed it and he has got it.
He
and
feels like he knows what it means to be Batman and Bruce Wayne, both of those things. It feels like within, and he's not wearing the mask when he's making all of these things, when he's making these statements and stuff, and you see Batman there, not a Bruce Wayne, not Ben Affleck, and that's good acting.
Mm-hmm. It's a shame because things have been so mishandled for 10 years with all of this stuff here. But we're hopefully getting a very different, much weirder DC universe than we've been getting with Marvel stuff, because the Marvel stuff, with the exception of Thor, the third one, Ragnarok, that's the weirdest Marvel movie that's been made. It feels like, because James Gunn does tend to want to lean into the weirdness, that it's going to be a whole lot more Peacemaker, the Suicide Squad-y than it's going to be like, by the numbers Black Widow kind of a thing.
Yeah, and then you'll have your more serious kind of off-world stuff with, your Joker sequel, your Batman sequel that don't really have anything to do with their proper. Which I think we've always kind of thought would be a smart move for them, is to kind of have their Elseworlds kind of titles and stuff like that, and stick to their main core, because that allows them to free up. I mean, Marvel could be nice that way, but it feels like now we've started building this Lego ship, and we want to make sure that it, is finished. So we have to keep building on it instead of, making yet another ship. No, we got to keep building this one. It's got to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And like, maybe you just need a smaller one that's like really cool instead of this giant one. But
hopefully
we'll see.
So you mentioned it at the top of the show that Ron Livingston is now playing Henry Allen instead of Billy Crudup. And I got to say, you feel for Ron Livingston. You want Ron Livingston to get out of prison. I don't know if the same can be said for Billy Crudup. There's something about Billy Crudup where you're like, I don't trust that guy. And it's not just that he's, like crazy good looking and he's got the voice of an angel. Like, there's something about him where, for me personally, where I'm like, I don't like that dude, and I don't know why.
Duplicitous.
Whereas with Ron Livingston, it's Ron Livingston, like maybe he's also a monster. I don't know anything about the man outside of his work, but you want Ron Livingston to get out of prison. With Billy Crudup, it'd be like, oh, good, that guy's going to be roaming out on the streets now. Great.
But the nice part is like Ron Livingston now, like we've known him as an actor for over 20 years at this point. He's put on a little weight. He looks great. Like he looks like a great dad. So he looks like he could be anybody's dad. And you're just like, well, I want dad out of jail. Yeah, that's dad. You know what I'm saying? Billy Crudup doesn't look like dad. He looks like a guy who probably, he might have been your dad, but he wasn't around for your childhood, if you know what I'm saying.
Right. So let me ask you this, right? Because I'm just basically going through cast right now, because it's the best way I could think of to remember this movie. Who do you think put in less effort in their performance in this movie? Is it Jeremy Irons or Michael Shannon?
Oh, I didn't mention this, and I should have. Michael Shannon right now, I don't know if you know this, has become an internet meme of the highest order. So in conjunction with a lot of things that people are doing for press, they go out and just do different junkets. Some of them do the Tonight Show, Today Show, whatever. You go out and you go do your things. One of the things now that people do for junkets and stuff is swing by the Criterion offices, and they go into the Criterion closet, and that's where all the Criterion movies are, and they get to pick out a whole bunch. Michael Shannon has just recently gone and taken a tour of the Criterion closet, and it is glorious. I suggest everyone just go on YouTube and take a look at it. But when he finishes up and everything, he just goes, I'm such a lucky boy. And just like in the weird, just off. Like, I love Michael Shannon. I think he's an amazing actor. I also think he's probably a little somewhere on the spectrum, just a tad, because there are moments where he is just like, it is just like, you gotta, are you doing this on purpose? It seems like such a weird character, but I bet it's him in real life because a lot of like great actors are like that. They're not like real people in the real world. They're just amazing actors. They can channel something, you know, on screen, but in real life, like Robert De Niro, I don't think has an actual real personality in real life. I just think he's like a wet blanket. Michael Shannon may be that same way where it's just like, I'm not sure that this guy even knows who he actually is at this point.
The thing about Michael Shannon to me is whenever I see him in an interview, he sounds like the real version of Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, I'm just going over here.
I could totally see him saying things like, "Is she a great big fat person?
It is.
Can you help me get this couch in my van?"
Yeah, and
no, Michael Shannon. No, I won't help you get that couch in your van.
And he's played tons of roles like that too. So it doesn't exactly help his case either. They're just like, you seem like a creepy, weird guy. But it also it looked like they got him into a booth and took his head and like did all the mocap and stuff like that, and then just pasted onto a body. I don't think he was on set.
So you think that you think the winner of the I'm doing less is Michael Shannon over Jeremy Irons.
Jeremy Irons, at least, like, he gets to be the guy in the chair, so at least he shows up, like, he doesn't have to mess with anybody. That was his day. That was his day. And maybe even his half day, to be honest. So he rolled through that real fast, and, like, he was delivering his lines. He wasn't doing much, but he was there. He had things to do. He had to click some buttons. He had some business to go about. Whereas I think Shannon was just looking into a monitor and they're just like, we'll scrap this onto something later. He does not want to be here with this boy. Oh, and I think Gal Gadot has shot all of her seeds for all of these things at the exact same time. I don't know why I feel that one too.
It's fine by me. And please keep the camera on that lady.
That's not bad. It's not bad. But
my God, man. But you were right at the top of the show when you said she can't act. She is not an actress.
You want to look past it and you want to just get through all of it and just go like, no, second, we'll give her benefit of doubt, and after a while it's just like, gosh, you're just really good looking, aren't you?
How many times do you think that they just hand her off lines because they want to hear her say these things? Like just look into the camera and say these things. And she's like, my, what a lovely lace doily. And they're like, yep, okay, here's another one.
And cut.
That shirt makes you look like a lumberjack. Thanks, Gal Gadot.
They shoot her a lot like they shoot Harrison Ford and all in that Apple show, where it's just like, we're just shooting you, we're getting all around you coverage, and then everyone else will do the scene without you here. Bye bye. But we'll keep looking in your direction as if you're still sitting there, but you are most assuredly not.
My word, though, I haven't been affected by the beauty of an actress in a very long time, except for her. It's crazy.
But that was fun. There's a lot of Flash sex talk, which is weird.
Yeah, the lasso of truth is just awful. We got it with the Batman joke.
That was fun
with him. That was funny. You went one too many when you had Barry start talking about how he's never had sex before. That is absolutely wrong and a lie. Someone who looks like that kid, there's a lady out there willing to take a shot at him. I don't care who you are. I don't care how crazy you are. When you look that way and you behave that way, there's certain women who are
you can even start a cult, one might say.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. You know, and I do have to say, I think it's very funny that the character of Barry Allen is played by Ezra Miller, who is so clearly an Ashkenazi Jew. And then his mom is played by a smoking hot Latina lady.
Yeah.
And his dad is Ron Livingston. That is not the way that person comes out.
Yeah, none of these people look like they belong. Like, this is a weird family that y'all put together and just like, that looks real. Like, no, it most assuredly does not. Those two don't make that child.
That child is clearly,
or even the young child, even like none of them look. No.
Yes.
Just so bad.
It is really terrible casting.
I was waiting for him to start speaking a little Spanish just to be like,
I was waiting.
We're gonna get in on some of that Spider-Verse action. We got a Latino mommy in here, and now we're gonna start talking some Spanish, boy. And you're like, no, please, God, don't. And thank God they didn't. But
yes, thankfully, no.
I felt it. I was like, oh no, please don't do that.
There's a couple of things that I want to bring up. If we can start jumping around, do you mind?
No.
So a couple of things I want to bring up about The Flash. If you have watched any amount of the television show The Flash, you know that JJ Jitters is a big part of that show. Yeah. Can we see a Flash property where a significant amount of time is not spent in a coffee shop? Why are we in this coffee shop for this long? Like, I get it. The barista is hilarious, but can we please not spend a significant amount of time in the first act in that stupid coffee shop?
Well, and the worst part too is that just like that you start the movie this way, and like there's no build up to it, but you just get two people going at each other in an affected way that just drives me up the wall. And I'm like, this is what we're starting with in the first 5 seconds. I am already annoyed.
Yeah. Then there's the second thing about the Flash, which is that the Flash, there's basically he does have a pretty good rogues gallery. He's got your Gorilla Grodd. He's got the Iceman. He's got Captain Cold. That's his name.
Yeah.
He's got a bunch of Mirror Master. He's got a bunch of like almost sort of Batmanish villains.
Yeah, fun stuff.
However, the two biggest villains that Flash has is either Reverse Flash or himself.
Mm-hmm.
And if to have this movie basically hint that that's who kills his mom and never show Reverse Flash. And I know that they cast him because it's the same guy who plays Homelander was Reverse Flash.
Is that right?
Yes, was cast as him. And so I'm sure there is a bunch of stuff that we're going to see in some sort of release at some point that you can spend more money for to see him as Reverse Flash. And quite honestly, I am here for that. I would love to see that.
Well, I want to push back a little. And again, this is only on account of what I heard here. So I don't, not for nothing. And I only seen the movie once, so I couldn't tell you. But as is my understanding, the kind of what we assume to be like the Reverse Flash that's coming, that hits him off path or whatever the hell it is.
No, that doesn't. That's who kills his mom.
Well, we never figure out who does that. Like that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It is heavily implied that it's Reverse Flash who does it.
Okay, I got you. I see what you're saying here. I thought we were talking about a different point. That's on me. I'm sorry.
But who knocks him off the path is himself.
Yeah, okay.
Because when you have a Flash movie or TV show, you're either going to have Reverse Flash or you are going to have a different version of Barry Allen that's evil as the villain. I mean, it's just what happens. You're making a Superman movie, Lex Luthor's going to be in it somewhere. I mean, It's just what happens, right? But when you have almost 10 seasons of a Flash TV show, maybe having a bad version of Barry be the bad guy of the movie, not so great an idea. Maybe you go in a different direction with that. Maybe just a thought.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that was a real bummer, quite honestly, because the second that Barry starts, that younger Barry starts using, like, slipping into the Speed Force,
mm-hmm.
It was like, oh, that's their bad guy. Like instantly. Like, oh, that's going to be the bad guy. Okay.
Yeah, they don't make too much of a thing about it, but like, and that's I liked in concept their idea of the Speed Force and some of that stuff just from a visual perspective, but it's
you hate the execution.
Yeah, the execution just wasn't quite there. It felt like a half-baked idea that really did kind of just need to go back, because there were a couple of moments when, like, I think the initial blue hit and like the audio again, I went to a theater with Atmos, so it was like really good audio and everything.
Yeah.
So a lot of good stuff with that, and then you just like, oh, but the visuals just fall a little short of where they ought to be, especially again for his movie that's as expensive as this one was to make. It's just like, oh shucks, because it's there. It's got that ability to have that kind of like, wild, crazy, quantum mania kind of, Ant-Man trippy sort of stuff going on, but never raises quite that level just because the visuals are like kind of meh.
It needs to be weirder. Like, you started out weird and it was great. Like, keep it weird, man.
Yeah,
like,
it was just like, I like the idea of like kind of almost your body kind of turning inside out and that kind of weird body horror idea. You need more little things like that. And again, that's also what kind of worked for some of the Doctor Strange stuff, was like when you feel like, everything is melting apart. Like that's what you need to feel like.
Right.
This going into, the chronosphere or whatever, it felt like it was far too easy to do, number one. It's just like, just barrier.
There's no effort. Yeah.
Close your eyes real hard, run for 5 seconds, and you're in this, and you can spoil up everything. But again, I go back to the fact of Barry being a smart person, but yet at the same time doing every stupid thing imaginable of all time. Like even a dum-dum would like he literally talks to Bruce about how it's an awful idea, and 5 seconds later is doing that exact thing. And then you're like, what? It's maddening.
They don't even, they don't even do the thing that regular screenplays do, which is that if you want to show that your character is very smart, but just socially inept.
Yeah.
And they give you all of the socially inept part of the Flash without any of the intelligence of the Flash. And to take that character that was set up in the Snyderverse Justice League, I get that it's a kind of a hard road to take just because they made him the comic relief of the Justice League.
Right.
Again, with middling effect.
Well, also the movie's like so dark to begin with. So like we're going to try to shoe in a little bit of humor. And even then it's like it's forced and everything and doesn't really work. So you can't have any dramatic layers to that character at all because he's one of the few who's, not on the brink of destruction at that point.
But what you can do to that is basically what they did in the comic books for the Flash, which is that, he puts on a persona when he's with the Justice League because he knows that that's what the Justice League needs. And so he's not as socially inept as he appears to be in the comics when he's part of the Justice League versus him on his own.
I would love to see. I'd love to see
really clever way
like
to do that.
If around that group and everything, or if, for example, like he was outside of that, like I don't know, somewhat competent in everything in life, but then when he gets around all these superheroes, himself, because he's kind of unexperienced in everything, that's when he gets all fumbly and weird. Like that's an angle, maybe. I don't know. It's just like I never once feel like this is a guy. He's never a superhero to me, ever. He's just a guy who can do the stuff. But I don't look at him and go like, that's the hero of this movie. No way.
Oh, he can do the stuff all right. in HMP parlance.
Yeah.
So let's get to the reason why we all saw this movie in the first place.
We talked about Ben Affleck.
The Michael Keaton of it all. So Michael Keaton, as I've stated 1,000 times before, as anyone any white male over the age of 35 will tell you, is a treasure.
Agreed.
And he is miraculous in this movie. He adds a level of competence to this movie that is sorely lacking whenever he's on screen. I'm not a huge fan of seeing him at the beginning where he looks like the Big Lebowski, but after that it's great. I cannot explain what the magic trick is about putting Michael Keaton in that costume, why it's not sad that he's in it, because it should be, by all rights, should be sad. But I think that, Sylvester Stallone is the patron saint of this podcast. I think that Stallone getting so mad that they cast Michael Keaton and they just put all of the muscles on the costume. I think that probably has something to add to it, that he was never that big a dude in the first place. So it's not like he's like fallen off a cliff, and then puts the suit on. He was always kind of a skinny guy in the first place.
Yeah, if he was like 40 pounds heavier than he is today, then I think we'd all be going like, oh no.
He just looks older. Like he hasn't gotten fat. He hasn't gotten like he's got a ton of face wrinkles that I had never noticed until this movie. But but that's it. Like he's not fatter. Like his eyes still have all of the intelligence that they had 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
It's still working. There's still a working actor behind there. He's pumping it out, and it's good. He's like, it feels like he showed up to work, essentially.
Yes. And he is clearly doing the same performance that he did 1,000 years ago. Like it's the same performance. And that part is interesting. I do like that you can kind of feel the sandpaperiness of it when he has to say the line, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts." He doesn't want to say that line. And I agree with you, Michael. Don't say that line.
Yeah.
But they gave you the money. How much money do you think they had to give him to get into the costume?
Okay. Here's the thing. Here's the tough part about this question. Because 10 years ago, this would have been a very different question.
Yes.
He's back on track. This is Oscar nominated Michael Keaton.
Yes.
I'm saying he don't get into that suit for less than 15.
Oh wow, you think they gave him 15 million?
I don't know, man.
I don't think you're wrong. But I also think that there was a much bigger plan for Michael Keaton before James Gunn came into this. Because I know that they wanted to make Michael Keaton basically like Samuel Jackson in the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Where he's no longer in the suit, but he is the guy who holds everything together.
Mm-hmm.
And now that James Gunn is in this, James Gunn was like, we're not doing that. And
James Gunn said, I'm taking Michael Douglas back out to this tool shed and I'm shooting him in the head.
Well, Michael Keaton was basically like, I got my money already. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Which is great. And that is exactly the way that should go. But I think you're right. I think it's around that. It would not surprise me in any way to learn that because they're not giving him a piece, right? Like they learned that with Jack Nicholson.
No, and according to the box office, he ain't getting. Even if he got much of a piece, he'd probably rather have taken the upfronts as opposed to the back end.
Right. But this movie doesn't have to be successful monetarily. It has to be successful with their IP so that they can move forward. And I don't know if they've done that with this movie.
No, we'll keep that up for the back pocket for a second.
We'll put that at the end.
I don't think you're wrong by any stretch of the imagination.
As I said when we were off air, you know what? No. Keep going. We'll stay with Michael Keaton for now. I guess. Keep going.
I liked Keaton being in this stuff. I liked what he was. I would rather him be in it than not be in it, I guess, with the movie that I saw.
Yeah.
That said, and we'll get into more of some of them later, this movie felt so ham-fisted in the member berries. It was awful. And there were some moments where it felt just cringe beyond cringe. And like you said, like that, and I love the line. I love the come on, let's get nuts, everybody, let's get nuts. Like it's great from the original movie. I don't need it here. I don't need you to repeat those lines. I don't need to have everybody go, hey Bart, say the thing. We don't need them to say the thing, man. We don't need him to say the thing. Him showing up's the thing. We got the thing. Thank you for the thing. We don't need to do it again. And I don't know. Did you hear cheering in the audience when that happened? I didn't. No. It was a peep, not a peep.
No, but there's also that strange.
Also, you ruined it in the trailer a billion times, so you can eat, rocks with that one, buddy. I tried to make that one nice, didn't I?
Eat rocks, baby. That goes on a shirt. I will say there is the weirdness to this, and it's in the writing, it's in the script, where you don't know if this is the same Bruce Wayne that we saw 30 years ago, where this could just be a different version of the same character,
Yeah.
but in a different universe. So there's a little bit of offset with that. It's kind of like seeing Gamora in Guardians 3, where you're like, that's not the same character, and your brain knows it. Red Letter Media has the thing. You might not have noticed it, but your brain did.
Yeah.
And that is what this felt like to me. Seeing, don't get me wrong, I think it's amazing that Michael Keaton is doing this. I think he's great as Batman. I think he's great as Bruce Wayne. I love Michael Keaton, and I always have. But there is a little thing in my brain going, is this the same one? Is this the same? And I think that that's the thing that keeps most people from going, yeah. That and the fact that they let you know that he was going to be in it for 2 years before the movie came out.
Yeah, because otherwise, at this point, I don't know.
And I don't know if I've made this clear. I kind of like this movie. Like, I don't hate it. It's just not great. And it's not, and I don't think it's the thing that everyone said it was. But the second that people started talking about it way too much, how it was the greatest movie ever, I was immediately like, set your expectations to normal, not to this is going to be the greatest movie we've ever seen.
Yeah, I went in honestly with the lowest of low expectations, because just
yeah, you like to zag, I know.
Yeah, it's not great, but at the same time, and I as well. I didn't hate the movie, and but I have tons and tons of problems with it, but it's not egregiously bad. We've seen a lot of worse films in theaters, and
oh my, yes.
So this is like, but and almost to a degree though, because of the amount of time that it's kind of been in the kitchen, it had to be at least halfway decent. Because it's you've done too much.
Can we go backwards for a second? I'm sorry for taking us, but I'm going to take us off on a tangent.
No,
here.
That's all right.
What do you think the worst movie we've seen in the movie theater for this show is? Because I have a front runner.
I mean, Bloodshot's up there.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So Bloodshot is the winner. Bloodshot is the worst movie that we've seen in a movie theater for this show.
For this show, yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah.
I can remember thinking it, and I know that we all did, that because the pandemic hit and literally you couldn't go to a movie theater. Like the next day after I had seen Bloodshot, and I know that we all thought this, like, please don't let Bloodshot be the last movie I ever watch in a movie theater.
I was lucky because I had access to a movie theater, so I purposely watched one more thing. So I don't remember what it was. I think it was The Invisible Man, but it was just I don't want that to be.
That's a really good movie.
I don't want that to be the last one that I do. And Invisible Man was something that we had, so I'm I'm gonna watch this. And it was great that I watched it too.
I wonder what Bruce would say, but I think he would also say Bloodshot. I really do.
It's pretty bad.
Terrible. The movie is terrible.
The only other one that sticks out in my brain hardcore, and I think I covered it on the Film Find way back when, but there was this movie called Nine that was it was done by the same guy that did Wanted and everything. It was a stop motion film.
Oh yeah, where it's like a little
sack guy.
It's a little sack and he's got a zipper. Yeah. I've seen it.
I Wanted to Die. It was I thought this movie is leading up to some sort of existential thing of hey, we're all just kind of going through this world, and it's just crap. It ends, and you're just this is the biggest waste of time. And that was the one where I was just I was just mad at the movies and life in general after that film. But the closest that I've come to that since has been Bloodshot, certainly for this show.
Boy, yeah, it's got to be Bloodshot, right?
Yeah, I think so. Most of the other real bad stuff we end up watching at home, where you can just pause and get a belt of whiskey and come back to it.
So we get to the Batman universe. We find out that Batman, everybody knows Batman, although there doesn't seem to be any other superheroes in this universe
from what
that Barry finds himself in.
Yeah, they specifically kind of talk about metahumans, which I thought was interesting that they use that term in this program.
Yep.
Especially with all the TV stuff, and I'm sure they wanted to go away from that, but they're hey, that's just kind of what we call them over here. But they talk about the metahuman stuff, so... But then we get, and so that'll give us a nice transition to where we don't have a Superman on this, but we got his cousin over here.
That's exactly where I was headed. That and before we get to her, because I know that you have a lot to say about her, and I do too. But we get Tamora Morrison. on the phone.
Yes.
On the phone, talking to Barry, and he's like, and I gotta say, when it comes to Tamora Morrison, this is the thing that he does best, right? You want him in little brief moments. You don't want him for an entire show.
Yeah.
Book of Boba Fett. You want him to pop in, give a how do you do, tip the hat, walk out. You know?
No, I want to see him miming motorcycles.
Like you don't want him for like hours and hours and hours. He's great at these, like, pop in, make a joke about the wife, he's out, like, done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, perfect. And it reminded me, oh right, I like Tamora Morrison. I just forgot that I liked him because I saw the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, listen, he's all those little fun cameos and stuff, and again, I like the idea of we're going through the Rolodex to try to find everybody and no one's there. That's fun stuff. That
is cool.
Things that should happen in this movie, and for things like that, you go, okay, good job. You did something right this time.
And then we get to Supergirl.
I was, listen, it is what it is. Supergirl is just, as a character itself, even kind of go back to the original. It's like, it's Superman, but a lady. And, we've done enough with the story to where it's interesting, thank heavens. But that is that kind of vibe. And it also, so this could easily, even, like I said, even going back to the 80s and stuff, where you're just like, oh, we're just putting a girl in the role to put a girl in the role. That said, this girl's fantastic. She has what Henry Cavill has. This weird thing where you just look at him and you go, yep. You just know right away. And I don't know her from anything, but just the moment that you kind of see her standing up and everything, and you're just like, oh, something about that. And then when you put on the suit, it's even better, and you're like, yep, I buy this 100%.
Yep, they did two things right in the filmmaking of this character specifically. One is just the casting of her is great, because I have no problem thinking that this girl can beat up a 300-pound man.
Yeah, you throw in the alien stuff, but she's also she's built well enough to where it looks like if she punched somebody, you add the yellow sun of Krypton or of Earth into that, boom, you understand why that person could beat the crap out of all of these people. And it's got that great weightness and everything. Give Zack Snyder credit where credit is due. He made Superman moving and stuff look really good. And they took a lot of that language and put it into this film and stuff with her and her movements and everything, and it absolutely works.
It does. And the second thing that they do that is terrific is when they bring her out into the sun, it's not like she's pale and then gets all, tanned. Mm-hmm. Like they basically plump her like a hot dog once she gets outside. And you see it in her hands and her fingers. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, that is some good storytelling. That's how you do that, because you don't want to do it to the whole person, because it would be some body horror stuff, really.
Yeah.
And so you just so you just do it to the hand to let everybody know, hey, she's getting her powers back. See. And it was some really good storytelling. There is some really good storytelling in this movie for a movie that is overstuffed with 50% bad ideas,
and has gone through 800 writers and director teams and everything. It's like, this is a movie that for all rights should be absolutely awful, because it's gone through the ringer so many times, and you can only grind that meat until it just becomes nothing.
I wonder if the reason why the people at DC like this movie so much is just because it was surprising that it is good. Because I know that the movies that I absolutely love the most are the ones that take me by surprise. Like, one night it was Lindsay's turn to pick the movie, and she picked Hell or High Water. And I was like, I've never even heard of this movie. And we went and saw it, and it was my favorite movie of the year because it was such a surprise when I saw it.
Oh, yeah.
And so that I'm wondering if that same thing happened to the folks at DC. Like, we have ruined this franchise. We have ruined this universe. Let's throw on Flash and see what happens. And they're like, hey, this is pretty good. you know what? This might be my favorite movie. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like we have to finish this on account of we have thrown way too much money into this for far too long. And at the end of the day, they got to make calls to investors and say, like, here's what we spent, here's what we made. And eventually, you got to pay the piper. And the movie needs to come out, or you need to scrap it and take a big loss. And like they don't like it those on paper for sure, especially when you're trying to, like, I'm sure, lure James Gunn over with a boatload of money and stuff like that. So you want to make sure as much of your stuff is profitable all the time. They threw up a Hail Mary, and you may not have gotten a touchdown with it, but you got a solid first down and a little more.
Yeah. And also we have not spoken about this person at all, this actor at all in the movie. The actress who plays Iris West.
She's fine.
She's okay, but
yeah.
They give that poor woman nothing.
No, exactly. That's why I say she's fine. It's
nothing.
like there's nothing for her to do in this film, so I can't feel one way about her or the other. I'm like,
what makes it a real bummer is that you can tell that within the screenplay, I don't even know if they end up shooting the scenes, you can tell that there is a sort of a back and forth with this character. Does she choose personal life or job when it comes to how she's dealing with Barry? And that's when we first see her, they give you that little indicator of like Barry doesn't really trust her all the way. And they should have done a lot more of that with that character than what they ended up doing, which is freshen your drink, sir. See you at the party. Bye.
Yeah, it's not far removed from that. And I think ultimately it comes down to, and like, well, not for nothing, Flash mentions, the sexless part, but like this character, I can't see him being involved with anyone. He's just like that. He's got a weird personality that doesn't look like it adheres to human existence for the most part. So like, I don't care for them because I don't, like, number one, I don't see her liking him because I barely see him as a human being, because he's more like I say, he looks like an alien, and he acts like an alien half in this film, and he can do it with himself as well. So it's even weirder than that. But so, like, you don't see what she would see in him. You don't feel like he is attracted to her in any real way. Like even when they get to the date part at the end, he's almost just like, I mean, I guess I'll go out with you. Like, it's a bummer.
It's like girl as goal, not personalities that you're lonely.
Yeah.
It's like girl as goal. You know what I mean? It's weird.
And he gets there and he's just like, well, I mean, I guess if you want to go out, we'll go out. I'll figure it out, whatever. I'm like, huh? I just feel like it's some baggage, I'm sure, that, him as a human being brings into it a little bit. That's for sure. But yeah, I don't know, but strange. Let's get to the member berries, because my sweet word have mercy.
Yes.
This is when there were
moments. Did you know any of this was going to be in this?
No. I'm not. But here's the worst part about it. I was not aware of any of the things that we see in all of our CGI created brethren, again, who look PlayStation 3 worthy.
Yes.
Not PlayStation 4 or 5, 3. 3 specifically. Not as bad as 2. 3. It is just, I had this feeling before then, but once all that stuff got out, I was just like, I'm not surprised by any of it. It didn't shock me. It kind of just like, it felt like I was being played to, and I didn't like it, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yeah, nor did I. And, it's like the writers of this movie like subscribe to Nerd Illustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And in Nerd Illustrated, if you are deep enough into that subscription, you know about Nicolas Cage's Superman, and you know that he's fighting a giant spider, and you know all of that stuff. And so to have that specifically in this movie, I get it. Like that's neat.
I feel like Tim Burton also going to be getting a lot of mailbox money in this movie. Him and Danny Elfman just going to be showing up and like, oh, geez Louise, look at these big old checks we got.
Oh yeah. But I think that, as neat as that is, when 2 weeks ago we just saw Across the Spider-Verse, where they go all in on that stuff instead of the 1 foot in the water, one still on the beach that they do in this movie. Yeah. It was super disappointing.
You did a thing that we all kind of already knew. And again, if this if this happened, I'll even say 15 years ago, but like even 20 years ago for sure, if this would have come out, like it would have blown minds, because we all know about it now. Like the internet is here. Everything is like the Nick Cage Superman stuff has been talked to death at this point.
Mm-hmm. There's a documentary about it.
Yeah. We covered a documentary. How many years ago was that at this point? That was 6 years ago, probably.
At least.
So like, it's not a thing that's been untrodden. This is not like we're pulling some nerdy thing out of the blue and going, which again, if you look at Spider-Verse, all the Spider-Verse stuff, there's stuff in there that like, yeah, those are deep, hardcore pulls and stuff. And most of them aren't like waving a flag saying, hi, look at me, and, you know, be important the entire time. We're just throwing it in there because it's good, fun stuff for people. This is saying, hey, here's all and like, it's the hot topicness of it all, I guess. I guess that's what it feels like. You know, it's like the people, and I know this sounds like old nerd crying up at clouds and everything, but we all know about this stuff. This isn't like we're not doing it didn't feel special in any way, I don't think.
Well, and if you're going all the way with that stuff, you need to get all of it. Get all of it. There's no reason why, if you're going to have Christopher Reeve's Superman show up, why don't you have everything show up? You know, like Christopher Reeve's Superman should be not an afterthought. It shouldn't be something where he shows up for 2 seconds and you're like, oh, wow, that guy was Superman when I was a child. You know, for me, it's not, that doesn't do anything. That doesn't move the needle, especially when, like I said previously, 2 weeks ago, they killed this. Like they absolutely nailed every aspect of a multiverse, and they knew the level of importance of certain characters versus other characters. Like, I don't need to see 1.5 minutes of Nick Cage, of fake Nick Cage being Superman. I don't need to see it.
Yeah, it's just like none of this happened. It's all CGI, and it's from a story we've all heard 1,000,000 times, that we've all pictured in our heads 1,000,000 times, and and here's the worst part, essentially looked like that in all of our brains.
Yes.
Because it wasn't quite, was that wholly different than what you had thought when you had heard this scene described? Him fighting this big giant spider and everything? It's pretty darn close to what I thought.
You know, why are we spending this much time on this when, like, Grant Gustin isn't in this movie?
No.
You know, or geez, John Wesley Shipp isn't in this movie. Like, why aren't we seeing these people?
Yeah, and we see a you know, the old school Flash and everything. Why don't we throw him in that role where he could easily go? Because
he did play the old school Flash on the TV series.
You're like, no, we can't have that.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yet the Flash, Ezra Miller's Flash has appeared on Grant Gustin's The Flash, as I saw on a clip on the internet. So, like, the reverse.
You know why?
Happened.
Because the show got it better. The show got Crisis better than this movie gets Crisis.
Yeah, I never feel yet. He's going back and he's destroying God knows everything at this point. But yet it never really, the world never feels like it's going to hell in a handbasket, I guess.
Yeah.
It all kind of seems localized in a weird way.
Yeah. You don't feel any stakes of this movie. And not to say that, you know, not every superhero movie has to be about the end of the world and the apocalypse, but at least let me feel like some amount of dread.
But you can't play in a world that says everything changes, but yet you never leave your backyard.
Right.
And just go, well, how do you know everything changed? You just stayed right here. That's what that felt like. It was just like, I don't know. But at some point, once we got into the round robin of CGI, you know, PlayStation 3 cutscenes, I was like, not to say that I was like, I wasn't checked out or anything like that, but like, it is the part that kind of got me like, all right, maybe I couldn't cut it a break. I can't cut you a break at this point when you do that, because it just felt like you were going back to these nostalgia things. And I know to some degree you have to do that when you're doing, you know, this multiversal kind of thing. And I think there's a way to do it, and it ain't this.
Right. This is not the way to do it. You know, if you're going to have Adam West and you're going to have Christopher Reeve and you're going to have George Reeves even in this movie, then just panning to that face doesn't mean anything. That is literally what pandering
Here's
is.
a thing that you know.
Right.
Okay.
And that's the bummer of it. That's the Rogue One dude who gets his hand cut off in the cantina in the first Star Wars shows up with his buddy.
Yeah.
Like Walrus Man shows up with his buddy.
We don't need this.
We don't need that. There's no reason for that to be in this. And that I get that I'm in a weird position with this because I do love seeing Michael Keaton back in the Batman costume.
Yeah.
But all the other everything else that you're throwing in this, it's all half measures. Nothing is full assed when you're going into this thing. And you can feel it. Like, you can feel that the people who made this movie probably like these characters, but they don't know all of everything there is to know about these characters, which when you're making a multiverse thing like this, you do need to know that stuff.
Oh, I see that the what's the guy's name that wrote Blade? Damn it, I can't remember his name.
Oh boy.
Oh,
Yeah.
We hate him so much on this show, and we haven't talked about him for so long because why would you? Damn it, what's his name? You guys, listen, I'm not looking.
Keep talking, I'll find it.
I'm not looking at David something. Is it David? There's a David. There's an initial somewhere in there. Oh, I hate that guy so much.
Just keep going. I'll find it. Go.
But that's the level here. It's like we know a couple of these names, we know a couple of these references. They won't have anything to do with anything else that we're doing, but we got those names, and that's
David S. Goyer.
David S. Goyer. There we go. I knew there was a David. I knew there was an initial in the middle.
My favorite thing is that when I'm re-listening to this tomorrow, I would know tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
when I'm listening to this
screaming
in the car,
at yourself, you idiot,
screaming
you idiot!
at myself.
Why did you not know this?
Exactly,
big giant dummy. All right, so let's talk about mid credits sequence here. I listen, not for nothing. I'm sure the guy is a complete a-hole in real life, but Jason Momoa showing up for some reason, I don't know why. Was okay with me.
I've heard literally the opposite. I've heard he's one of the easiest people to work with.
Maybe he's a great guy. I don't know. Maybe he's so good at all the performances that he puts on that I've been sold a bill of goods. I hope that's true. I hope he's amazing. I hope he's a great guy. But he comes off as a real douche. Like there's a lot. I mean, like the idea that he wrote the script like a treatment or something for for Aquaman's next movie, and the villain was climate change.
Well, I mean,
so
Christopher Reeve did the same thing with Superman 4.
Yeah, not unprecedented, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way it is. But, like Lou Ferrigno wanted to add a love interest for the Hulk. I mean,
but then the Hulk gets a girlfriend. Like, no girlfriend for the Hulk.
Did you just do Deaf Voice?
I'm pretty good at it. He didn't hear me. But it's ultimately, where was I going with the last part?
I just completely hit you sideways with calling you out on the Deaf Voice.
No, this was fine. I thought his scene was fine, and at least you feel like he showed up to work that day to have some fun.
Yes,
he's literally smashing his face in water and making bubbles. Yes. I'm like, that guy showed up to work today and he's having fun. So I like
the fact that he actually did lie in that puddle. I was like, wow, I'm surprised he laid in that puddle. The Rock wouldn't lay in that puddle.
Exactly. I was like, you know what? Like that. It's weird
Vin Diesel wouldn't lay in that puddle.
Nope. That gave me a little bit more respect for this guy because it felt like, oh, he's willing to get down in the dirt and make fun of himself and have a joke. And again, that's how you win me over a lot of times. It's just like be able to, make fun of yourself and go, I get the joke. It puts me, with dudes especially, obviously, it gets me on your side all the time where I'm like, okay, if you know who you are and the reputation that you're received as and can just go into it, I'm fine with you. It goes a long way.
You know what I always think of and I'm sorry I'm taking us off on a tangent here for a second. I always think of 90s alt-rock comedian who she was in everything for, like movie, Janine Garofalo.
Yes.
I always think of Janine Garofalo's bit where she's talking about how like She is pro lesbian. She herself is not a lesbian, and she goes, "Look, I get it. All right, I get how you could be confused. You look at me and you think like, well, maybe, but no. And I always think of that whenever I think of like, oh, she knows it. Like she gets her thing.
Yeah,
like, she knows her own public persona, and she's literally setting that up. Like I love when people do that. And so whenever I see something like Momoa like lying face down in that puddle, I'm like, oh, he gets it.
Yeah.
He knows who he is. That's awesome.
He knows who he is. Channing Tatum plays dumb sometimes because it's just like, that's probably what you think of me. And so it's a lot of fun.
And you know when Vin Diesel's like, listen, this is where we're taking the Fast and the Furious franchise. It's like, oh, really? Because of all those great movies you wrote? How about we settle down, Vin?
And that's the best part. Ain't none of those things even his ideas. It's all like the Chris Miller, the guy who's been writing he wrote like 6 of those things. They're all garbage, but like
they are. It's
just that one dude who's doing. It's not like even Vin Diesel's coming up with any of these ideas. He's literally just going, say family a bunch. It all adds up. Why not? And then we get here's the thing. I think many people will say our post-credit sequence here is a bit of a throwaway. I say I hope this is where the reality lies, and this kind of closes this book, because I think we all thought at the end of this movie we're going to have some sort of thing where we kind of are bringing together, or dissolving this one and bringing into the James Gunniverse everything. The new swath of DC will be able to go through this, and that doesn't exactly happen, but I think maybe that it does happen, in as much as Flash shows up, he thinks everything is fine, and this Batman is played by George Clooney. I love the idea that we just sent him in to the Joel Schumacher verse, and that's where he stays, is over, which frankly is a good place for Ezra Miller's shenanigans is over.
Agreed.
In a Joel Schumacher world, to be sure.
Yep.
That's the future for this character that I want to believe actually happens, is he stays in Schumacher world and we never hear from him again. He becomes like Judy in Family Matters. She goes upstairs one season, you never see her again. Clooney was fun. I mean, at least that is another thing that made me respect George Clooney even more, is when it was absolutely not his fault for that Batman movie being as bad as it is, but him taking the lumps and just saying, listen, it's all on my shoulders. Respected George Clooney for that.
It kind of screwed him up, and I don't mean career-wise. Like, he was still going to be just fine.
Yeah.
But it screwed him up in the head for a little bit, because after doing... Is it Batman and Robin he's in?
Uh-huh.
So after doing Batman and Robin, and he's just taking body blow after body blow, working on that, he then works on what I believe is his best movie, Good Night and Good Luck.
Mm-hmm.
And he, on the commentary of that movie, because yes, I've seen it so many times, I wanted to see what they had to say about it. He is very dismissive of certain aspects of that movie, where I'm like, George, shut up. That's perfect. George, stop talking. That's perfect. Because it was the next thing he did after the Batman movie. And he's still like licking his wounds over the public beating he took on Batman and Robin. But to now come full circle, where when you see him show up, and it's and I don't know if anyone's hooting and hollering. They certainly didn't in my theater, but there was a couple of chuckles when he shows up.
Yeah, it was just kind of a, hey, nice.
Hey, neat.
Yeah.
And and it's cool. And to have Ezra Miller throw the F word at him as they're talking, I was like, wow. Nice.
But yeah, it was fun. Fun enough, but like at the same time too, not for nothing, but like I called it like 15 seconds before he gets out of the car. The second that we hear Batman, I go, oh, what's the only Batman we haven't seen at this point? So
right.
It's kind of felt like I think that's like when
we didn't see Lego Batman either.
No, we didn't, which kind of, I guess.
Again, because it's a half measure. That's why.
Yeah.
Half measure.
But again, that's what, like, think back to Spider-Verse and the impossible crap that they did in that show that doesn't make sense and shouldn't work and should just be like, why on earth do you have these weird live action elements into your show? Why does it turn to a Lego thing at one point? None of this crap should work, and it works 100 times better than this film that's been in development hell for 6 years.
Because, so as weird as it sounds, Sony and the Spider-Verse now owns the multiverse. No one does it like them. Everyone needs to stop and just give it to Sony.
Yeah, just quit it. But don't worry. No, Loki season 2 will change all of that, Sean. What do you know? I'm sorry. Sometimes we get a little crazy. We have fun here. Before we get to our final review, though, we have to ask ourselves one very important question: is how this movie relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement this week.
Oh, it changed.
Hello, Mr. Stallone. I hope your Father's Day is beeves. Henry Braham. Let's call him Braham.
Sure.
Henry Braham is the director of photography on the Flash movie. He's had his foot in the door at the show business factory since 1990 when he was the cinematographer for a video called Arabist Takarim, Little Sister Leaving Town. I tried to look other things up about this artist, this song. I found nothing. But I didn't really look very hard because I'm not willing to look very hard because it was just something I needed. Okay. Fair. I don't know anything about the person's music. And also because I'm middle-aged, and that's what we do. We're just like, I don't care. Moving on. The thing about this video, though, is it did start the career of Henry Braham, and the world is better off for it. He seems to be James Gunn's go-to DP these days, having worked on Guardians of the Galaxy's Volume 2 and 3 and The Suicide Squad. And wouldn't you know it, you're in all 3 of those movies. So that's the Stallone connection. See how this works? In 2007, Variety named Henry Braham as one of the 10 cinematographers to watch. And hot damn, did they nail that one. Because after they listed him, he worked on the movies Everybody's Fine, 10-Minute Tales, Astonish Me, The Uncertainty Principle, The Clear Road Ahead. Movies we all cherish and adore. Way to nail it, Variety. Now, Henry is from England because you can't make an American movie anymore without a foreign cinematographer. And I guess all the DPs from the Eastern Bloc countries were already working during the time everyone was working on the Flash movie. And there's your Stallone connection this week, cinematographer Henry Braham. I hope to hear from you soon, Mr. Stallone. Your pal, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
All righty, everybody. It's been a long time in the works, but did the Flash fall or fly to the top? I don't know. I was trying to come up with a speed thing, but it just didn't happen. Sometimes you just don't hit them. So, Sean, where does the Flash fall on the Robin rating system for you?
Well, let me tell you what Bruce said about, because Bruce did chime in on our text chain, and he said that he loves this movie and it's a Dick Grayson for him. Which I believe that he loves this movie. For me, it is a high Damian Wayne. It is sort of, it's not middle of the road. It's a little better than middle of the road, but it is standing pretty close to the middle of the road. And Bruce did remind me about the Eric Stoltz as Marty McFly Back to the Future. That is a good runner bit. I do love that joke. That was another one that, like, again, had it been 20 years, I mean, the internet has really democratized things in the best and worst of ways. Because It used to be that we all had like this fun, expert knowledge, and now it's great that everybody has it, but it's also terrible because everybody has it. And then, like, not to say that like you become this thing, but it does become something that's less special. So when you put it on screen as if it is something special, still, it doesn't feel that way to me. Yeah. And that's where a lot of this stuff felt. It was just kind of halfway. And that's why I'm kind of Damian Wayne as well. Just like right there in the middle.
it's not horrible. There are
No.
moments in it that it's like, oh, this is good, and it feels like there is deep down a movie. I hate to say this, but needs a little bit more time to figure out exactly what they want to be.
Well, they should have just torn the whole thing down. Once they knew that, and I guess it was too late because with James Gunn coming in, James Gunn probably said, no, this is good because it leaves us to open up what the rest of this new DC universe is going to be. But they they half measured that too. I mean, at the end of this, Ezra Miller is still the Flash.
We've got nothing. We don't know anything. And like I said, that's why in my head canon, at least, I'm just going, he's stuck in Schumacher verse, and we're all free from the daemon. But that's also part of the problem too. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you folks. I mean, because I can separate art from artist. That's not what I'm doing here when I say that Ezra Miller in this role bothers me. I don't like his acting in this role, whatever and I've liked him in other things. But this specifically, I don't like what he's doing here. I find it wildly annoying. I find his character choices amazingly annoying. I feel like I'm not putting Grant Gustin in this role per se, but like if there's somebody else, I think this is a different movie and like probably a better movie. If we had a different actor and you had an idea of what you really wanted to do with this, the bones are there. It's just not fleshed out, and we just don't have a lead that I feel is compelling enough in any way to drive me forward to give two craps about this guy. I don't care about the Flash in any way, really. I don't hate his guts, but I don't like him.
Do you mean the character, or do you mean this version of the character?
This character and the version of him,
so both things.
Well, I mean, you
don't care about the Flash. You didn't care about the Flash before.
No, I'm fine with the Flash as a DC character, if you will.
I see.
I'm fine with that. But like his version of the Flash, what we've seen with him, I could give two craps. I just don't care. I was like, it's not compelling. It's not any Flash that I particularly want to see in any way, because it's just it doesn't do it. It doesn't fit what I would think that character would be. And again, if like anything else, if you want to make a different character and call it something else and make it that way, have at. But don't tell me it's that character and then him just be a complete idiot for the entire time. Like he's so dumb. And this is a smart character. It's historically a smart character, and that's what was like kind of great about those a lot of characters from that era and stuff, and especially when they kind of got rewritten, a little bit in later years and stuff, and really Spider-Man was kind of the one that put all this up. We made it okay for like these characters to be smart people. And and having them not be smart, I feel like just denigrates that a little bit. At least we see in the Spider-Man movies, Tom Holland's Spider-Man has moments of that brilliance that comes out. You see that kid is smart. You realize, okay, not only is he funny and quippy and does all these things, I also know there's a brain working behind there. I never feel that with the Flash, and part of that is
that's another movie that does the multiverse better as well as Spider-Man: Far From Home or No Way Home.
Oh yeah. It works a lot better. Sorry, Sony. I can't believe we're saying it. Sony is doing something right. That may be the only thing they're doing right, but by God, at least they got something. And we hope you got.
I can't wait to see that Silver Sable movie.
Woo! Oh my God, it's a real thing, everybody. What in God's name are they doing? We're making a Silver Sable movie, which, first of all, none of y'all know what friggin' Silver Sable is. I just remember the cover so well because it was the 90s and we just embossed everything in silver or gold or something. Did. So I remember that, but like no one knows that character. A Madam Web? Craven the Hunter? You're about to put out a Madam Web and Craven the Hunter. The crack cocaine that must be going around the Sony offices, somebody's getting the good stuff and somebody's getting the rotten stuff, because
at least there's an excuse if there's drugs. It's just sheer incompetence if there's no drugs involved.
Good gravy. It is, who knows? Like they're either doing super, super well or they're eating dirt. I don't know. Who's to say? But we'll find out more about that stuff in the future, I am sure. But next week we're going to be talking. We got our weeks flip flopped a little bit here, so sorry about that. So last week we said we were going to talk about Asteroid City. this week, but we're going to do that next week because we got them switched up. So sorry about that, but you knew that going in. You knew we were stupid. We got a couple emails saying his stuff. Hey, you're stupid. It comes out this week, you dum-dums. And we're like, okay, fair.
Hello, dum-dum.
Yes, that is us. Until then, Sean, where can they find more of your work on the internet?
We got another podcast called 30 Questions, where we ask 30 questions of some nerdy property. And the next episode of Marvel 30 Questions is next week. 2 weeks.
Next week, yeah. Next Wednesday starts Secret Invasion, which hilariously they have... here's what the headlines all say. The Secret Invasion receives the lowest Rotten Tomatoes score ever for a Marvel television show. Okay. And then it's 76%. You're like, shut your mouth. Good grief. Listen, 76% for that show at this point, when as far into the Marvel and Star Wars television landscape that we're in, 76% is like 5 years ago, 100%. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because we're all kind of tired of it at this point. So when it gets to that point, I'm like, that's probably decent then if it's 70. But they were like, that's the lowest ever. That's certified fresh. What the heck? I don't know. But we'll talk about something else that's certified fresh next week in Asteroid City. So go check that out. Oh, and if you're in Huntington, West Virginia, go check out our own Bruce Leslie in the SpongeBob the musical. It's the only musical in town that's playing, so you can go find that out. He's got colored beards and an eye patch. If you hear people singing, just run in that generalized
run towards
direction.
The music,
and get your pocket open and everything. Support the kids. I don't know. I don't know what happens over there. Join us next week, everybody, for Wes Anderson's Asteroid City. For Sweet Sean Zakovac from the internet and the absent Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Porters. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.